Previously on the political drama that is the Kenya Kwanza government, President William Ruto, now commonly referred to as R, looked straight into the cameras, his voice calm but firm. He urged the nation, "Please, let us not incite the young people of our nation." But the words, instead of calming the storm, seemed to pour more fuel onto an already blazing fire. The country is boiling, the streets are restless, and from Nairobi to Kisumu, one question is echoing louder than ever before. Are Kenyans unfairly hating on their president, or is President Ruto completely out of touch with the real struggles facing the people? As tensions continue to rise across the country, Ruto and his inner circle have made it abundantly clear where they stand. They insist that the current turmoil is not due to poor leadership, nor to failed promises, nor to rising taxes or skyrocketing cost of living. No, according to them, what's unfolding in the streets of Kenya is a calculated attack, an incitement of the youth by rogue politicians, bitter religious leaders, and even disappointed parents. In their eyes, Ruto is not just doing his job, he's excelling at it. The problem, they argue, is that too many Kenyans are simply blind to the brilliance of their own president.
Let us not incite the young people of our nation. Those of you who participated in destroying property in all our towns, we will come after you, especially the people who planned those violence.
Ruto's allies echo this sentiment without hesitation. They dismiss the growing criticism from all quarters of society. "Ignore other people talking nonsense," said one government supporter in a recent televised debate. "They have not been given any responsibility. They are not president to anyone. They are just pedestrians like any other person." This idea, that only those in power have the right to speak, is becoming increasingly central to how Ruto's government handles opposition. Dissent to them is not a sign of a healthy democracy. It's a sign of betrayal.
Ignore other people talking nonsense because they don't have a responsibility. They have not been given power by anyone. They are not president to anyone. They are just pedestrians like any other person. So no matter what they say or the number of times they speak or they talk, wewe ignore our, sisi hapa nyumbani tunakusupport.
When President Ruto stood before the crowd at the 9th edition of the annual Captain Integrated Conservation event, he didn't look like a leader on the defensive. He looked like a man with a plan, a professor lecturing students he believes are too distracted by noise to appreciate his teachings. With confidence, he rattled off his government's achievements, turning the stage into a podium of defense. "I am ready to answer any question on my commitment to the people of Kenya," he said, stressing that his government's results speak for themselves. Ruto proudly declared that Kenya is now the 6th largest economy in Africa, having moved up from 8th place. The Kenyan shilling, long battered by inflation and mismanagement, has been stabilized, he claimed, falling from 165 shillings to the dollar to 129. That alone, according to Ruto, should silence his critics. He pointed to the agricultural sector, boasting that the country is now earning more from tea, sugarcane, and coffee than it ever did under previous administrations, and perhaps his crown jewel, healthcare reform. Ruto announced that more than 24 million Kenyans are now registered under the newly launched Social Health Authority, compared to just 7 million who had access under the previous NHIF system. "We have tripled the number of people registered," he emphasized. "This is progress." To President Ruto, these statistics are more than numbers. They are proof of his leadership, his vision, and his supposed excellence. In his view, these are reasons for celebration, not protest. But the country seems to be telling a different story. While Ruto waves economic scorecards, the youth are waving placards and dodging bullets in the streets. While he celebrates exchange rate stabilization, families are still struggling to afford flour, fuel, and fare. And while he highlights enrollment in healthcare systems, hospitals across the country are still under-resourced, and medicines remain unaffordable for many. Ruto insists that the anger swelling across the nation is not rooted in his policies, but in misinformation and incitement. According to him, the real culprits are not the tax hikes or unemployment, but rogue actors, politicians, pastors, and even parents who are allegedly poisoning the minds of Kenya's youth. They cannot tell their children what is wrong from what is right, Ruto lamented, placing blame squarely on the family unit and the pulpit for what he views as an unnecessary rebellion. He believes that without this deliberate manipulation, Kenya would be a peaceful paradise, where tourists flood the streets and the world sees a model of reform and progress. But what the world sees instead are angry young Kenyans clashing with police, burning tires and chanting, "Ruto must go." But this discontent didn't appear overnight. Long before the Gen Z uprising, even former President Uhuru Kenyatta had sounded the alarm. During his tenure, Kenyatta warned of a looming youth revolt, one that would not be led by traditional opposition figures like Raila Odinga, but would instead rise organically from a generation betrayed by empty promises. He called it a time bomb and warned that if not handled carefully, it could blow the country to pieces. It was a warning the current administration chose to ignore.
We have a youth bulge that, if not properly handled, can be a time bomb that can blow this country to pieces. The handling of that has to be done extremely carefully. Extremely carefully. That is not a problem of this community or that. It affects us all. But how we manage it, we must manage it very carefully.
Nairobi Senator Edwin Sifuna also echoed similar concerns, saying that the government was fortunate as long as organized politicians were leading the demonstrations. The day Kenyans take this matter upon themselves, he said, there will be no one to call to the table. That day came, and when it did, it exploded like a volcano no one could contain.
And Trevor, I want to add one writer.
Yeah.
You people, this country, this illegitimate government, is better off when it is known people like Sifuna, like Raila, like Osotsi, leading these demonstrations. The day Kenyans take this matter upon themselves, Trevor, there will be no one to call to the table.
In June of last year, the Gen Z protests erupted with a fury never seen before in Kenyan politics. These were not tribal demonstrations. They were not tied to any political party. They were raw, leaderless, fearless, and furious. They stormed Parliament. They shook the foundations of State House. They defied police orders and shouted one unifying demand across the nation: Ruto must go. The movement was not rooted in political allegiance, but in lived frustration. Young Kenyans were angry at the lack of jobs, the hopelessness of their future, the rising cost of living, and the failure of government after government to deliver meaningful change. Ruto's government tried to contain the situation. They arrested influencers. They detained opposition figures. They tried to control social media narratives. They pointed fingers at mysterious foreign funders. At one point, they even attempted to bring Raila Odinga, the perennial protest leader, into quiet negotiations, hoping he could calm the Gen Z tsunami. But nothing worked, because this time the youth didn't want a messiah. They wanted results, and they were no longer afraid. In desperation, Ruto turned to a new strategy, targeting Kenya's most sacred institutions, the family and the church. He accused parents and pastors of planting rebellion in their children, of failing to discipline and guide them. He pleaded with religious leaders and political figures not to incite the young people. Please let us not incite our youth into violence, lawlessness, destruction of property, and loss of life, he warned. But these words, instead of offering peace, sounded like blame. The government was no longer taking responsibility. It was pushing it onto society itself. But how long can a leader blame everyone else? Are Kenyans really so gullible that they can be manipulated into nationwide protests? Or is there a deeper truth the government refuses to confront? The answer seems obvious to many. The youth are not rising because of whispers from pastors. They are rising because their stomachs are empty. because their university degrees have become worthless, because they are tired of watching politicians grow richer while their own lives remain stuck in survival mode. They are rising because they feel invisible in the very country they call home. President Ruto can hold up as many charts and economic indexes as he likes, but no graph can erase hunger. No PowerPoint slide can fix broken promises. No GDP statistic can justify the pain Kenyans are feeling every single day. And perhaps most dangerously, no amount of blame shifting will ever solve the real problem, a broken connection between the government and the governed. Today, Kenya stands at a pivotal moment in its history. A moment where decisions made in State House could either unite a hurting nation or divide it beyond repair. Ruto can choose to listen, to acknowledge the pain, and to truly reform. Or he can continue to dismiss critics as pedestrians and call the unrest a grand conspiracy. But the clock is ticking, and Kenya's youth are not going back to sleep. They've tasted their power, they've found their voice, and if nothing changes, their chant, "Ruto must go," may only grow louder. What are your thoughts? Is Kenya facing a youth manipulation crisis, or is this simply a new generation standing up for a better future? Let us know in the comments. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to Voice of Africa, hit that like button, and support us with a super thanks if you believe in independent Pan-African journalism. Until next time, stay alert, stay awake, and stay proud.